All right, today we're going to tackle a theory that pretty much turns reality on its head. It's called the Cognitive Theoretic Model of the Universe, or the CTMU for short. So buckle up because this thing reimagines, well, everything. So let's just dive right into the deep end with the core question of the CTMU. I want you to forget the Big Bang is just some kind of cosmic accident for a second. Instead, what if the universe is more like a language, like a single cosmic thought that is somehow both the author and the story that's being written at the same time? Yeah, it's a wild one. Now, you might be asking, why would anyone even come up with a theory this radical? Well, to get that, you have to look at the pretty big cracks that are showing in our current understanding of everything. Because for all its incredible power, modern science has really hit a wall. I mean, think about it. We've got these two powerhouse theories: general relativity, which explains the super big stuff like galaxies, and quantum mechanics, for all the teeny tiny stuff. But here's the problem. They fundamentally contradict each other. They just don't play nicely together. And maybe the biggest mystery of all, consciousness, the simple fact that we're here, observing and questioning it all, is something mainstream science just can't really explain at all. And this right here shows you that fundamental split. On one side, you've got the classical view of reality as the smooth, continuous, unbroken whole, like a wave. But on the other side, you've got the quantum view, where everything is made of these little distinct packets, or quanta, kind of like pixels on a screen. And you can't have it both ways. These two ideas are totally incompatible, and physics has been stuck trying to bridge that gap for 100 years. But the deepest gap isn't even just in physics. It's this ancient philosophical problem. How does the physical stuff of the universe, matter and energy, relate to the non-physical world of thoughts, information, and, our own minds? This is that classic mind-body problem, and it's the biggest hurdle for any real theory of everything. So, how do we even start to fix this? Well, our guide here is a legendary and famously unconventional physicist, John Archibald Wheeler. His ideas were so out there, so forward-thinking, that he basically laid the groundwork for a completely new way of looking at reality. This quote is it's so wild. Wheeler proposed this logic loop. See, he's not saying the universe just exists and we happen to pop in and see it. No, he's saying the laws of physics create observers, like us. And then those observers, by the very act of observing, create information. And get this, that information is what gives rise to the laws of physics in the first place. It's a completely self-contained circle. Wheeler actually called this a self-excited circuit. Just think about that for a second. The universe isn't some static thing just sitting there. It's a dynamic system that, through the observers inside of it, is constantly observing itself. And that active observation is what brings it fully into existence. So Wheeler basically left us with these three huge, profound clues. First, his famous phrase, it from bit, the idea that every physical thing, every it, is fundamentally built from information, or bits. Second, the participatory universe, the idea that we aren't just passive spectators, we are essential co-creators of reality. And finally, law without law. This mind-blowing idea that the rules of the universe weren't set in stone from the beginning, they actually grew and evolved right along with the universe itself. Okay, so Wheeler brilliantly pointed out the problems and left us with these radical clues. And this is exactly where the CTMU steps into the picture. It proposes a framework that tries to finally put all of these strange, disconnected pieces together into one coherent whole. And here it is. This is the absolute core idea of the CTMU. See, we normally use language, like math or logic, to describe reality. But the CTMU says, nope, that's not the whole story. It argues that reality, at its most fundamental level, is a language. And that's not a metaphor. The structure is literally the same. But this isn't just any old language. It's called a self-configuring self-processing language, or SCSPL for short. The easiest way to think about it is like a piece of computer code that is its own operating system, writes its own software, and runs itself, all without needing any external computer or programmer. There's just nothing outside of it. It's the whole shebang. And just like any language we use, this cosmic language has a grammar. It's actually pretty intuitive. In this framework, physical objects are like the nouns. Space isn't some empty box. It's the network of relationships that connects all those nouns. Time, that's the verb, the action, the processing. And the laws of physics, that's the syntax, the fundamental rules of grammar that dictate how everything gets to interact. Okay, so if the universe really is a self-writing story, how on earth does that actually work? Like, what's the mechanism that's driving this whole process forward? Well, this is where the theory gets really, really weird. So in a normal computer program, right, the rules, the syntax determine what happens. It's a one-way street. But in the CTMU, look at the arrows here, it's a two-way street. The laws of the universe, its syntax, and the contents of the universe, its state, are locked in this constant feedback loop where they are creating and refining each other moment by moment. This very strange feedback loop has a name, telic recursion, and it's a truly wild concept. It basically suggests that the universe isn't just stumbling forward randomly. Instead, it's evolving by constantly selecting for states that best express its own future potential, which means, in a way, its possible futures are actually reaching back in time to influence what's happening right now. You know, the simplest way to get your head around it is like this. Imagine an author writing a novel where the perfect, most satisfying ending is somehow guiding their choices all the way back in the first chapter. With telic recursion, the universe is self-organizing towards some future state of maximum coherence, and that end goal is actively shaping how it gets there. So we've got a self-writing, self-organizing universe. Let's bring this all home now and look at the final and most profound conclusions of the CTMU. This is where it all really clicks into place. The first core idea is called the reality principle, and it's actually simple but really powerful. Reality is, by definition, everything there is. I mean, if something from outside reality could affect it, then that outside thing would automatically just become part of reality, right? So this means the universe has to contain its own cause and its own explanation entirely within itself. Okay, the second principle has a super complicated name, syndiphonesis, but the meaning is pretty simple. It basically means difference within sameness. Think about it. Any two things that seem different, say an apple and an orange, can only be told apart because they both exist inside a common reality that lets you compare them. The crucial point here is that unity, or sameness, is always more fundamental than separation. And all of this builds up to the grand finale, the mind equals reality principle. The theory argues that mind and reality are not two separate things at all. They are two sides of the exact same coin. That underlying cosmic language we talked about, the SCSPL. The grammar of reality is the structure of mind. They're fundamentally, absolutely inseparable. Which, of course, leaves us with one final fascinating question to chew on. If our minds and the entire universe are really built from the same fundamental code, if we truly speak the same language, then what is this cosmic sentence that's being written all around us? What is the universe trying to tell us?